to start showing you with Graver just to demonstrate this because I can get all into one area. Okay. So the main question we get when people start is, what's the difference? And I think this came up even at the meeting I was at with you guys. What's the difference between a blind and a shutter, right? So shutter, this, you have, it is a fixed product. It opens out. It's basically furniture for your window. This is considered a permanent installation once it's installed, so it's tax exempt. And it is going to be 2.5 to 3 times as much as a blind, generally speaking. All right. So that's your blind. I'm sorry, your shutter, and this is your blind. Blind hangs in the window and it lifts up, and the shutter tilts out. Obviously, they both have a tilt function. So this is a standard cord lock, and it's right. Lifts here and tilts here. So this is a slat, and this is a louver, even though they have the same functionality. And this is the tilt bar. You don't actually move a shutter by that, you move it by the louver. Okay, so opens out, opens up, and both tilt. This is going to be your lowest price point product, is the basic line. And this is not on here quite right, but it has the decorative valance as well. With a blind, you can get
Decorative valance.
valance. That's this piece here. So this is a valance, and it's flat and smooth. This one's a little more ornate. You would pick something that would go with their window trim or the trim in their house. Or you can have, we have some vendors that don't require the valance at all. But it hides this ugly back here, you know, the metal headrail.
So that's something that we've had to recommend oftentimes to client if we have to bring their blinds in. Would we be able to just order those valance pieces with the returns now?
Yes,
Because that could be an easy add-on for windows if we know it's going to extend if their blinds are going to have to come interior to the house. So we'd be able to do that now, which is huge because.
Yeah, you can add just this piece.
Yep.
And there are some other options for that kind of thing as well. Thank you for fixing that.
Sure.
You got it.
He's ready to sell.
All right, you're ready to go.
You're up for it.
So this is a cord tilt, and this is a wand tilt on a blind. The wand, I think, looks better, but you can see, I mean, it just stays forever. And for someone, if you have an older person that has, maybe they're tending towards arthritis, I would never recommend something like this, but it is more child safe. And then you can have, the blind can be cordless as well. I don't think I have one over here that's cordless. And then this is a vertical blind. So that's like what you had in your college apartment, right? And it tilts or it opens. And that's the basic functionality for those. So the blind is always going to be this, that's a vertical blind. This is a shutter. Everything else is a shade. And then that's where it gets complicated because there's, I think, 17 different types of shades. Everybody ready to learn those? Okay. Any
Are
questions?
the vertical blinds typical for windows, or are they more for
No,
doors? or-
my neighbor put them in their windows and I was appalled. But it's usually something you'll see on a slider, and really not that often. It's not something we sell very much. It's,
Yesterday's.
yeah, it's dated.
Yeah, it's dated.
It's dated.
Cheap government housing has it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Used to be big back in the 80s.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, every apartment pretty much still has them, I think, on the sliders. But they're lower cost than a lot of your other options. So, but they are harder to install. They're not particularly attractive. The functionality isn't great. It's not something you're going to recommend a lot, but it is something we offer because it does fill a need. So, it is something you'll have in your toolbox. It's just not something you're going to use very much. So again, blind, vertical or horizontal, shutter, myriad of shades. And now we'll go ahead and move into the other portion so that I can show you the individual shade products. But this is the only place that I had those three things in one area. So we'll go ahead and move over.
And do you have like a one page of just like nomenclature for
I do.
this stuff? Okay.
I do. It's, I've got, may not be one page, but I'll try to get
Oh,
it.
yeah,
Yeah,
a
but I've
quick
got some,
reference.
yes, I've got some vocabulary kind of things for you, some lingo,
Okay.
and then I'm gonna break down product by product for you.
Gotcha.
And that will all be digitally available to you, okay? This, I mean, you guys will not be doing custom drapery, but just so you understand, this is a stationary drapery panel, meaning it does not move. It's just decorative. It is a great add-on charge, and Hunter Douglas does have a bag for this. So it is something that will be available to you to sell. I'm not expecting you to learn this anytime soon. Just so that's off the pressure point there. But that is a stationary panel. So this is one with finials and that's one without. And this is a Roman shade. And this is the design
Jeannie.
studio line
Can you skip that one?
that
Thank you.
Hunter Douglas offers that gives us the ability to do semi-custom Roman shades.
Can I ask what defines a Roman shade?
Absolutely. So Roman shade is typified by this. These soft folds when you raise it.
Okay.
This one's cordless and kind of a pain. So as it's raised, it's always gonna need to be dressed and fluffed a little bit, just to keep it being pretty. And some of them, when they're down, are flat, and some of them continue to have those soft loops. So I'll show you some examples of those. But a Roman shade is that, exactly. It has this folded application when it's raised. So it's never gonna completely disappear. It's not meant to. It's meant to be like this more often than not, so that it's more decorative in the window. It's an aesthetic choice. So it's not just covering like a basic function, it's more for looks, generally speaking. This is gonna be your client that spends a lot of time on Pinterest and has design fantasies.
What are some other brands that people would associate or equate with Hunter Douglas quality? Like what would we hear from people like comparable?
Comparable. Graber's gonna be the next closest competitor for Hunter. Hunter is largely considered the industry lead. I mean, they are the innovator in the industry. They are accepted as the top quality. And Graber is right below them, both in size of the company and in reputation. Graber actually probably advertises more. They push quite a bit more. And you'll see them in design magazines and things like that. So some people may have heard of Graber even more than they have Hunter Douglas, which is kind of an interesting paradox there. But so this was Graber that we were in here before.
What about Bali, or isn't that one or something? I've heard that of from clients.
Levelor, those are going to be things you're going to get in box stores.
Okay.
So those are generally made by the same companies, and they offer, or they're owned by the same companies, and they offer these lines that can be sold in your box stores.
Okay.
So like Levelor is actually, I think Hunter Douglas just took over in Levelor. And Bali, I don't remember which store sells Bali, but they're not going to be comparable in quality.
Okay.
Those are definitely a more budget made or budget produced product. And then price wise, sometimes we beat a Lowe's quote and sometimes we don't. It just depends on the product. So I don't know exactly where they fall competitively to us in price.
Okay.
But quality, they're going to be below. This is our shutter wall. We are not going to dig real into shutters today because shutters are their own animal and they are very complex. We will discuss them, but we're going to have a full class on that with a shutter like guru. So that they can go over all that with y'all. I don't want to confuse you with this is this and this is that. I want someone that can give you all the ins and outs on that at one time. And to me, this is like really complex and complicated. I think that's something you should learn on its own separately. So we'll cover just a little, but we're not going to spend a lot of time on the shutters, okay? As I said before, this is your front tilt, and then this is the hidden tilt. You're not seeing it.
What is this called again?
It's a tilt bar. Tilt bar.
What did you say was a louver again?
Louver. L-O-U-V-E-R. Louver.
I thought you said it was a louver.
Oh, sorry. Louver. So there. Okay. Moving over in here, we're going to start with our shades. So, roller shade. This is the most popular type of shade. So you have roller shades and cellular shades. Those are going to be your biggest selling shades. And they are also on the lower end of the price continuum, which I will give you guys a sheet that has a basic guide as to where your price points fall. So you have some idea of that before you start working on those with clients. Roller shade, exactly what it sounds like. This is, in the back I've got a continuous loop. This would normally be a fixture wall. goes up into its roller and is completely hidden by the top treatment, if you do a top treatment. So, but this would be generally set into your window like this, and if you have enough depth, it's completely recessed, and it fits really nicely at the top. But they have to have a good deep window well for that, so a lot of times it'll stick out like this. You'll have it like semi-recessed, and you'll have, this would be a little more prominent to the home. And this is a cordless roller. So, roller shades.
That's pretty deep, low.
This is a lot. This is like,
Yeah,
yeah, you need at least 3.5 inches. So most windows you're not gonna have that kind of depth.
yeah, exactly.
Um,
I see these a lot in hotels.
so you have a lot where?
At hotels.
Yes.
Businesses.
Yeah. They're really commercial friendly because they're easy to clean, they're easy to operate, they're a good price point. So you do see them in a lot of businesses. They're not delicate. You know, this is a very durable type product. It's easy to clean. Like you can wipe that off with a cloth. You're not going to hurt it. This one happens to be opaque. They come in different opacities, and we'll discuss opacity after we get through the shades.
That's
Yeah.
the word for the day.
There's a lot of words for the day, right?
I think louver is the word.
Is this also like blinds, is that a balance?
This is a cassette. This is called the cassette, and it's one of your design options with a roller shade. So you have a couple of different top treatments that can go on the top of this. Cassette is the one that is most common. So that's your cassette. This one is a complete fabric covered cassette. This one is like an insert into a weird little plastic thing. Your
So-
cassette's much preferable.
You called that a top treatment?
Mhm.
Is that the same as that, or?
This one is actually not quite the same. This,
So that treatment, quote unquote, is like built into the cassette, and that is like a separate.
no, it's just a different,
Addition?
it's just a different option. It's just a different type of cassette. I mean, if we use cassette as a top treatment, it's just a different type. So this is your cassette, it's a full box. This is sort of attached to the front. It's like a attached balance.
And the purpose of the cassette is just to cover the.
Just to cover the
mechanism.
rail and the
Yeah.
mechanism,
Yeah.
right. So you have a little more finished look, exactly. Okay. And
So the cassette is the actual container for the shade to roll up into and out of.
No.
No.
No, I'm sorry. I don't know how to, I'll show you in a book in a minute and I'll kind of break that down for you a little bit better.
The cassette's just the surround
It's
part.
just the surrounding,
Just,
right.
yeah.
It's a
Camouflages.
housing.
So
It's a
like
housing.
this is
Yeah,
part of the
that's what I-
operation.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's
This
not
is
the
part of
piece with the
cassette.
roller.
This is.
That's a bracket. This is a mounting bracket, if you can see from the side. So that's what you would have, if I took this off, you still have this mounting bracket that houses the roll, right? This is something it can all fit into and it covers all of that so it's disguised. This is clipped onto the front.
Would it be safe to say that in the case of shade,
Mhm.
it's a balance?
Of a blind?
Of a blind, rather, I'm
Yes.
sorry. And then in the case of the shade, it's a cassette, but has similar functions.
It's a top treatment.
Okay, all right,
Let's use top treatment.
I'll stop.
Because that way, no, you're on the right track,
Okay,
but let's use top treatment because cassette is specific to
Okay.
this.
gotcha,
But a top treatment is anything that's gonna cover your mechanism.
which would be the blanket term,
Right,
gotcha.
So a cassette is a type of top treatment.
exactly,
Okay, good.
okay. Alright, so roller shade,
So we got that
And-
squared away.
screen shade, very similar functionality, it's basically the same product. It's just that it's going to have, it's a woven material, man-made material that allows you light through and view out. So roller shade, you can have light coming in, but you're not usually gonna be able to see out. A screen shade is made for you to actually be able to view through. This one's not a great example of that because it has this texture to it, so it kind of obscures the view, but you can see how much light comes through that. And so this is like a PVC type material. It's super durable. You see these in restaurants, coffee shops, that kind of thing all the time. This is another type of cassette, and it is a cassette. This is a rounded cassette, that is a square cassette. So just a different type. But essentially, other than that, same product. It functions the exact same way. This one's cordless, but this is spring assisted cordless. So that one I can move with my hand, this one I have to tension release. Bless
So
you.
would it be safe to say somebody that has a desire for that one would want some light coming in other than this?
Exactly, exactly. This is, I'm not too concerned about privacy.
Mm-hmm.
I wanna be able to see out, I want natural light in, okay? We do, a lot of these, like I said, commercial, but also no country homes where they have these big, beautiful openings on the back of the house. They wanna control some glare, they wanna maybe control heat during certain times of the day, but they're not worried about privacy. This is a great fit for that.
So even if somebody viewing from the outside in, you'd be able to see more the inside of the home with that one?
At night, you can see completely in.
Completely in, okay.
So with a screen shade, wherever your dominant light source is where your view is gonna be. So during the day, when it's bright outside, I can see out perfectly. At night, I'm not gonna be able to see out, they're gonna be able to see in. So it's not a privacy providing product. So it's, you always wanna think about that with the client, what their situation is. But a lot of homes we do, they're like, privacy isn't an issue, I've got 5 acres behind me, whatever.
Sure.
And they're not worried about the privacy, they just want light during the day. They wanna be able to see out while still watching TV, basically.
What's the big difference between soft shades and Roman? Is it just the teardrop look? Because it still has that.
This is
full-
actually, that's a really good question. This is actually a type of Roman.
Oh,
So this is, the Solera is, Hunter Douglas has the Vignette and the Solera. The Solera is their more modern version of a Roman, and it's a lower price point than a Vignette, and it has a little more energy efficiency.
okay. So that's still a Roman shade.
It is still a type of Roman shade. It's a Hunter Douglas Roman shade. So,
So that's not a cellular.
no,
Okay.
it's a baby of a cellular and a Roman.
Got
Is
it.
exactly what it is.
Ah,
So they got fancy and started hybridizing their different products.
awesome.
So if we can go around over here, I'll show you the cell, and then we'll come back to this when we can start to put those together. And I'm sorry, I know it's a lot of back and forth. Our products are just all over the place. So this is a cell shade. So your Roman shade, I'm sorry, not your Roman, your roller and your cellular shades are gonna be your most common go-tos. Sorry, young crowd in over here as much as you can.
You said Roman and cells.
I said Roman, but I corrected myself. Your roller and your cellular.
So this is cellular.
This is cellular. And a cell and a honeycomb, cellular and honeycomb, those are interchangeable terms. So they both mean this product. And you can see you've got the cell inside. Okay, that's what makes it a cell shade.
And it
Cellular
mimics the look
honeycomb.
of a honeycomb, which is where they get that.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So this particular one is a Duet Architella. It has a cell within a cell, right? So it's for energy efficiency, it's for good for light control. It'll serve almost any purpose your client is needing to fill.
So are those the main benefits of a honeycomb or a cellular? Energy efficiency.
Energy efficiency, and they have the best fit into your window. Okay, so roller shade,
As far as depth goes?
as far as fitting edge to edge in a window.
Okay.
A roller shade always has a deduction because it has to come off that roll. So if you can picture how your fabric needs to be a little bit narrower than your roll, you're always gonna have a gap at the side on a roller shade. There's not really any way around it. You're always gonna have a gap.
So in the same opening, what's the plus or minus on a honeycomb or cellular? Half inch, quarter inch,
Yeah.
eighth inch?
I don't have those kinds of numbers memorized,
Okay.
but you're gonna have about a ½ inch typically on a roller, and this is more like a quarter inch. Don't quote me on that specifically. It may be a little less than that.
Would the price
Right.
point be higher on cellular?
No,
No.
no. Your price point, depending on your product line, can be very low on a cellular. They tend to have a little more dated look or a dated connotation. People see this and they think older. So that's going to be your kind of demerit on this one, is that you have to overcome the idea that it's a dated product. But this will go really wide, and so will a roller. So these are your two, if you're looking to cover a large window and you want to do it with one product, a cellular shade or a roller shade are usually going to be your best bet if we're not doing a vertical. and this fits tighter in your window.
How, I mean, I don't know how you might quantify this right now, but how durable is that? Like, when I look at it, it looks
It looks
fragile.
delicate.
Yeah, it looks
Especially this
super-
looks delicate. It's not. These things will last forever. I mean, they are,
The Home Depot versions are not.
okay. No.
I've had some of those and
Ah.
experience there.
I mean, you,
Those are good.
if you let a cat climb it or your dog choose it, anything's gonna have some vulnerability, but we have people that have had these in their homes for 40 years. I mean, they are really, they're there for the long run.
Does a roller or this go wider than the other? Or are they about
A
the
self-shade,
same?
generally, you can go a little wider, depending on, you're gonna have square footage issues, so you can't always say anything's gonna go 120 or
Right.
anything's gonna go 140.
Right,
But generally, you can do some wider widths with the cell.
got it.
Okay,
Good
so
question. What is this called? We've got balance, we've got cassette.
this is
we've
just the
got
headrail.
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 Take a second.
Yeah. So yeah, and any of your, the top part is going to have some decorative options, except for honeycombs. Well, I shouldn't say all. Honeycombs do not have a decorative option. This is it. It's a color coordinated headrail. You can order it a different color, which is weird, but you can do it. But it's always going to be just this sort of dynamic shape that fits in with your shade. And I don't have, let's see. This one has the sheer on top, so you have that two-sided component to it.
That's pretty cool.
That is cool.
It is really cool.
Yeah.
That's called a duolite.
Wow.
The other advantage of a honeycomb is that they have the tightest stack when raised. So you see how that goes away? Yeah. Let me see if I can get this one. This one's motorized. See how tightly that goes up? So if you have someone that says, I really don't want to know it's there when it's up,
Right.
this is sometimes a good answer for that. Because you could have that cassette, that decorative piece with your roller shade, but you saw that's still going to have a good amount of depth and presence in your window. This really could be pretty minimal. They have white trim and they did a white shade, and that's raised. It doesn't call attention to itself. These are really easy to operate cordless, but you can also get a manual control or motorized, as with any of the other products. So with the cell shades and Hunter Douglas, they have duets and they have applause. That is, so it's your Lexus and your Toyota line for cellular honeycomb shades. The duet is your Lexus. It's going to be quite a bit more expensive, and then applause is a much smaller product, far fewer SKUs, so there's a lot less color and fabric options, but they're a lower price point.
Quality wise, equal-ish.
Equal-ish. I mean, they're both good quality. Duet has some much nicer fabrics, and they have the Arcatella cell within a cell, and Applause has a double cell, but they don't have quite the same amount of energy efficiency. Which, if, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, if y'all are looking for real energy efficiency, y'all are probably gonna try to sell them Windows instead, but, yeah.
Do they both have the drop from the top
Yes.
thing?
Yes.
We had those in our last house, and that was the coolest part about it.
It is
you
awesome.
can control privacy from
Yes.
the top.
Yes, that is one of the design add-ons you can do called
What is that
top down,
called?
bottom up.
Top down, bottom
Mhm.
up.
And that's unique. If somebody wants that, this is their only option.
No, there's about 4 products they can do that on.
Okay.
But it is a great selling point, especially if they have something, you know, in a master bathroom or something, maybe they have one of those big tubs and they want something behind it. Well, I don't want to have to lower it and raise it all the time. This could be, you know, not here. So if you would imagine that, you could leave it at a rate that's sort of going to give you that amount of privacy and always have light, always have your
Like this one here.
Yes, thank you. I forgot that one was there. Yeah, so perfect. So if this was, you know, this high, then I'm covered, I'm good, and I can still see out, and I don't have to mess with it all the time. I could drop it and leave it, or raise and lower it as needed, especially if you have, give them a remote, give them a motorized shade. And the other option is to do this. This is dual light, so it's 2 fabrics on one, and you have that sheer, and then this could be room darkening, or it could be like a light filtering, and it could be also like this where there's nothing here. So Those are your design options with the cell, and it will also go vertical. So, and the fabrics coordinate with the vertical and the horizontals. If you're doing a slider, this is not a bad option. It looks a little like a church divider, but it'll get the job done and it'll go pretty big.
Do you tend to do those on gliding windows or no? Does everybody match them up and down vertically?
Most of the time, what they do is just they'll just use
So the
A straight
horizontal isn't
horizontal.
very popular, I would imagine.
the horizontals are
Yeah.
just
Exactly.
people just do those.
Sure.
And that's what we most often end up recommending too, is that like if they're doing roller shades, just do a roller shade. Just mount it above, do the roller shade. It goes up when you want it up and it's out of your way. Most of the time, that's what we do. So here's another type of vertical. Just to have a better view of that. This is a little bit nicer than the flat slats. Okay, so
That's a 4-year college blind.
right, there you go. This is, Daddy's got a little bit of money left over. So you have your cellular and your roller, right? And those are our two major categories that most people buy in. If we walk back around over here, everybody's gonna get their stats today. Then we can start looking at some of the hybrids. All right, so this is Sonnet. Gunnar Douglas was like, what else can we do? Because people like this, and that, we'll put them together. So we've got a roller shade with a cell pocket. So this is the most energy efficient type of roller shade. It's still gonna have the same problem you have with the roller shade in that you have this gap at the side, but it does give you a little more energy efficiency and it has a little dimension to it. So it can have a little bit nicer look, you know, a little bit more decorative than the standard roller. If you don't like that fabric, here's another one. And that has a little more, to me, a little more sophisticated look than this fabric. So you kind of get a feel for why someone might like that.
Do these not raise them?
Sorry?
Do they not raise them?
They do. We have some issues with some of our motorization here.
Oh, I gotcha.
My installer was supposed to have been over here this week, and then with the ice and then James being out, he wasn't able to get over here to do all the fixes so that my remotes aren't all working.
So they both have the capability for light, I guess they say light
Yes.
filtering,
Correct.
and then room
Room darkening.
Room darkening, right?
mhm.
So you have,
Exactly. And every product we have, other
Yeah.
than a blind and a shutter, is going to have different levels of opacity. So,
And these are all remote control. I know you hit a little like manual button.
I hit a little override button,
Okay.
and most of the products have it. Some of them it's harder to get to.
But generally they're remote controlled.
Generally, they're remote controlled. Yeah. So, it's gonna work.
When you're saying they're remote controlled, is it product specific or are they all?
What did you think?
It's product. Well, you can put motorization on anything you sell.
Okay.
Okay. So they're all going to have different lifting systems, and we will cover the lifting systems separately. It's just so much information. So we'll kind of break it down into categories. Yeah. So, but yeah, you can do motorization on pretty much any product.
So
Alright.
if that's not motorized, how does that work?
With one of the other lifting system options. So they're all going to have options. You've got custom clutch, which is a beaded loop cord. You've got a standard cord lock, which is not available on every product. You've got cordless, which is where I was just raising and lowering with my hand. You've got motorized, and then we have soft touch, which is actually up here. This is a little power wand. So you have to go to the window, but it's a less expensive motorized option. This is great for older people that don't want to try to keep up with the remote. Or that are just intimidated by the technology, that kind of thing. And for kids, it is fixable, which is nice. Yeah. So those are your basic lifting systems, and most of them are available on every product. And then we have an Ultra Glide retractable cord. I'll show you that one when we pass one. Sonnet doesn't have that Ultra Glide option, but it comes in everything else. So the Sonnet, again, hybrid of a cell and a roller. One of the downfalls with this product is, you see with the motorized, it goes up pretty nicely. But if it's not motorized, it drops down a little bit. This bottom rail doesn't go completely into the head rail, so it'll slacken down a little bit with cordless or with even the soft touch. Show on this side I'm talking about. So this is a cordless. See, it doesn't want to fit up as nicely.
I see.
So if you've got someone who's really concerned about that, and we had a person that actually did not buy this product because of that, because it doesn't fit up quite as well. So it's just one of the inherent issues with that product is it doesn't fit up as tightly. But this is the cordless operation on that.
Seems like that operates super easy.
It does, and I'm going to encourage y'all to go around and play with the lifting systems once we've gone and talked through all the products, so you can get a feel for them. But the cordless, this is called Light Rise with Hunter Douglas, is really easy to use.
Yeah,
It's
that's cool.
the only issue is you need to make sure you can actually reach the top of your window. So if you've got people that have those 8-foot tall windows,
You come,
throw it up
and you
there.
come from
Yeah.
my family.
I'm like, yeah, I can't.
That doesn't work.
This is
Not
a
gonna
stretch
work.
for me. Yeah.
Did you
So
say lift systems? Is that
Lifting.
the technical
lifting
systems?
lifting system.
And then what all different lifting systems are there? I've got motorized, cordless. You said soft touch.
Soft touch, that's the power one. Ultra Glide is your retractable, which is this.
Are these all like
Ultra glide.
trademarked by Hunter Douglas? Like, is this gonna be the same nomenclature with Graver?
Well, there's gonna be, each one has their own kind of vernacular that they use. Yeah, it's a good question. They're all gonna have their own terminology. But cordless is always cordless, right? I mean, that is what it means. But Hunter Douglas calls it Light Rise. Try not to overwhelm y'all with those kinds of terms because they don't mean a lot to you until you start to really use them. Light Rise, Easy Rise, Ultra Glide, and Power View. Obviously, Power View's motorized. The others, there's nothing about that attaches itself to, oh, that's cordless. You know what I mean? Easy Rise doesn't sound any more cordless or less cordless than Light Rise. But Light Rise is their cordless. Easy Rise is this. It's a cord loop. Yeah, this is your standard entry-level lifting system. Okay, so
Hang your kid on it.
yeah, this should be installed here, and this is called a cord tensioner. It holds it at the proper tension, and then you should be able to operate it without it being a life-threatening device to your children or pets. Still, like 9 kids a year die. So
I was just gonna ask you, are there statistics on like
Really?
what kinda,
Yeah.
wow. In
9?
the world or in the United States?
I think that's in the United States.
That's a pretty low number.
It really is. I mean, you're like, oh, that's,
Yeah,
we didn't need those.
it's only
guys.
9.
We can sacrifice 9.
At least it's not 10.
Until it's your kid.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, I mean, it's awful, and there's some legislation that's up that they're trying to actually get rid of anything that
I
hangs.
hate to be graphic,
Go ahead.
but what would kill a kid?
If this was not
Attached properly?
attached,
Okay.
they will play with it and get it wrapped around their necks.
Okay. All right.
That's what
Do
happens.
you want your kids or do you want these blinds? That's all you have to say.
The
I
longer,
mean, the blinds are a one-time expense. you
That's
know?
right.
it's usually the longer rope cords they do it. though,
Right.
Not so much
Yeah,
chain.
not so much these, but they do still happen. It's the free-hanging
The cord.
standard cord lock that you would have on a blind that is more of a risk. And that's why we don't have it on basically any product except a blind.
In military housing, they have those and they make you sign a waiver.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're like, if your kids die from this, it's not our fault.
sure, okay.
Those fastening brackets are sturdy.
They can be. Yeah, we have those I have that in my living room, and I don't love it. It's a pain. I mean, honestly, it's just, it doesn't look great, and it's not super easy to operate.
Very old school.
And it takes forever. I mean, if you had 10 windows in your living and kitchen and you
Coming
went
from
in and
Mr.
opened them
Old
every
School.
morning, what a pain.
So that's what we should lead with, right? These don't look good and they don't.
So yeah, like this is your entry level, and this is, but if you don't want to have cords hanging in your window, you want a more attractive, clean look. So this is the Ultra Glide. It's retractable, so the child safe option is that it stays at a height that should be out of child range. And it just retracts. It takes fewer pulls than doing the hand over hand motion. Okay.
Doesn't look very good when it's all the way pulled up.
The shade?
Yeah, just like in terms of like flush or whatever.
Right, yeah. So this is a type of Roman, and Romans always have a stack, and they don't look good when they're all the way up. This looks okay if you want to leave it like that, where it's more like decorative. If you're looking to raise it all the way, yeah, that doesn't look good.
No.
I feel like it depends on where the cord's hanging. If you have it in line with the cord, it looks good. Anything past that.
I think that's a good sort of, yeah.
Very good fashion.
Just to like,
Yeah.
I'll let that sink in for a second.
Yeah.
If you-
I like to put
So
it on
anytime
the
you
top
get
of that
something
tire.
that's gonna be a Roman style, inevitably, it's not gonna be flush at the top.
Exactly. It's
Okay.
always going to have a stack, and that's what they call it. The amount of fabric that is still
The
exposed
stack.
is called a stack.
Okay. So that's the trade-off. You're like, if you want that, just
Right.
so you know, you're gonna eat up some of your view, right?
Yes, and most of the time, if you get someone that's getting a Roman, they are looking for that. They're
Okay.
looking for that aesthetic to have that decorative piece that's always going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
If they're looking to maximize their view, this is usually not the product they're going to go with.
Okay.
So yeah, that is definitely sort of the trade-off. Okay, so I think that's most of the lifting systems, as long as we're kind of getting through that. You've got your Ultra Glide. They can look different on different products. You've got your continuous loop, which can be a cord, a fabric cord, or it can be beaded plastic or beaded metal. You've got Light Rise, which is your cordless option. And then you have motorized, which is called Power View for Hunter Douglas. And then Cord Lock, which is only available, I think, on a blind and a woven wood shade. Yeah, it's not super
So let me,
intuitive.
okay, what, we
It's
have,
really not.
oh, interesting, do you like pull,
There we go. It's, yeah, it has to go like straight down to do one thing, and then slightly to the left or slightly to the right. I hate Ultra Glide.
It's a nightmare.
To be very honest with you, I don't like it.
cool.
Yeah.
Tell me the ones that are awesome.
Right.
That's what I'm gonna stick to.
Make this real simple.
It has its time and place, and if you have the same shade and you use it all the time, you get very comfortable with it, and you know. But if you put it in a guest room, you're gonna have to teach everyone that operates that shade how to use it. So I don't love Ultra Glide for that reason. It's not intuitive to use. Cordless is the cord loop. I mean, anybody can do that. So those are pretty easy. Okay, so going back to our types of shades. This is the Solera. So we talked about the Sunnet, which is your hybrid between a cell and a roller. And then this is a hybrid between a Roman and a roller. So it's really, in terms of functionality, it is no different than the other Roman that they have, which is the Vignette. It doesn't have any more of a noticeable pocket, but it is supposed to be more energy efficient. And it has this kind of peaked shape. I won't say what we call it. But it's a little lower price point than the Vignette, which is their leading Roman shade for Hunter Douglas. And it comes in a limited number of fabrics. You can get it in your different opacities. It's sort of a curated collection of fabrics. So it's not a huge offering, but it's a nice alternative to a Vignette, which is more expensive. So if we think of Duet and Applause as Toyota Lexus, this is sort of the same. I think of Vignette as the Lexus, and the Solera is kind of a nice Toyota. I mean, it's a great car, but it is a, there you go. It's a Camry.
Yeah, you can kind of see it now that you pointed that
Right.
out.
Yeah.
That does look nice.
Yes. And this is the Vignette. This is the classic Roman.
Okay. Lexus.
There you go. So with this, you always, when you think of a Roman, most people think of this fold. This is part of the shade, and it's always going to be there. And this one, this answers your question. This one is top down, bottom up.
Oh,
So most of your stacking products you can do top down, bottom up. Your rolling products cannot. And that's, if you think about how they operate, that explains itself. If it's going up on a roller, there's no way to drop it down from the top. but this is stacking, so you can do that.
So one side operates the top, the other side operates the bottom.
Exactly. And this is Ultra Glide, and you can see it looks just a little bit different than those others. So again, does not look great when it's raised all the way. When you do it too tight, it just doesn't look right. It's meant to be left down a little. Okay. Again, we'll come in different opacities, and to make things really confusing, Hunter Douglas has a line called Illustra that spans their products, that is a more expensive fabric collection, and it is available on different ones. So this is an Illustra vignette, so it's a more expensive fabric.
The bottom one is? Okay.
It looks thicker and more
Yeah.
durable.
Yeah, they're meant to look like a woven product, and yeah, but they have kind of a silks and stuff in there, and they're just more expensive. This one is light filtering. You can see how much light's coming through, and it's a good time to talk about these strings. Okay, so with a Roman shade, Romans are operated by having little rings. Typically, if you had one made in a workroom, it would have little rings at each point here that this material goes through. And when you raise the cord, it gathers the shade up.
Okay.
So if I went and bought a custom Roman, I picked out one of these materials and I went to somewhere and had it made, I would see all of this on the back of that shade. It's completely exposed. So when I put that in my window and I walk outside, I can see all that mechanism. Vignette hides that mechanism. It's completely shrouded. It is the only Roman shade that you can buy that has that you cannot see any of the mechanism. There are other makers that have a liner that hangs, but it hangs. This one is attached, and it gives you a completely finished look. So that's the upside to doing a Hunter Douglas Roman shade.
Which is probably huge on the front of a house, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Or in
If
a
they're-
courtyard,
Yeah.
somewhere that's, feels decorative outside. You care what people are seeing.
So like the Roman shades over there, you're gonna be able to see all that stuff
Yes,
on the outside.
yes, and I'll show you what that looks like on another shade. So here, because it's light filtering, I can still see the string because this material is not opaque. But from behind, I'm not seeing little rings and all the hardware. That's not attractive. So it is something to always discuss with the client if they're getting one of the other types of Romans. Are they aware they're going to see that? Not everyone is. They don't think about it. They've seen it in an ad or they've seen it on HGTV and they don't know what it looks like from behind. So you always want to talk about that.
Yeah,
It's
it's
important.
huge.
Yeah. Okay.
Before we, how much, just out of curiosity, like, how much of your business is this Roman style? Is this super popular? Okay.
No. Like I said, rollers and cell shades are the most of the shades you're going to sell.
Okay.
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 I would say maybe less than 10% of our shade sales are going to be in this vein.
Okay.
And if they want to go to this price point, you're probably going to try to get them to a pirouette price point. And we'll walk over and kind of talk about some of those.
So how many options for like, I don't know, that there's light filtering, like room darkening, but how many options for color would there be for something like this?
I'll show y'all some of the books so you can get a feel. There's probably 10 different fabric lines, and then they're each going to have at least 4 colors.
10 fabric lines for 40 options.
At least.
Is a Vignette Roman the only one that can come down like that?
No. Anything that stacks. So the Solera will do this. The Vignette will do this. A woven wood, which we haven't talked about, and the cell shades. Those are your 4 if they want to do top down, bottom up. It's a cell shade, Vignette, Solera, or Provenance, which is a woven wood.
Cell shades can go to.
Woven wood.
Woven wood. Okay. So coming around over here, we've got a couple more just so you can see a little more. This is another couple of vignettes. This is a completely sheer one, basically. I mean, that is a really expensive way to hide nothing, but it's pretty. Yeah.
Is the vignette specific to Romans?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Vignette is Hunter Douglas's Roman shade.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay. This one has. Let's see if I can get a shade that drops down behind it. anyway, it's a dual light, which is, with the cell shade, the dual light had the sheer at the top and the solid at the bottom. With your roller products, dual light has a liner that drops down behind it, and I'll show you that over here. So you can get a sheer shade, and then it has a solid room darkening lining that will drop down behind. So if they wanted those two options, they could have it incorporated into one product.
So this wouldn't be a top down, bottom up option
Not the
with
roller
the sheer?
one, not the roller.
Okay, so
Right,
the-
and not with dual light.
Okay,
Vignette.
so the vignette is a roller Roman.
Vignette comes both ways. Vignette is a stacking product, but they make it on a roller as well. So you can get it, and it comes also as a flat. Vignette has a lot of different options. It can be a roller, or it can be a stacking shade. If it's a stacking shade, it can be top down, bottom up. You see, this is stacking. This with that cassette is a roller.
Anything roller automatically eliminates that.
Exactly. So they have a flat fold, and I don't have one in here. I'll have to show y'all in the book. They have a flat fold vignette, which means it's more like this Roman here, where it was flat in the front and it didn't have these folds sort of sewn in. So it just is a flat. When it's completely down, it's flat, and you see the battens. The batten is this area where it's sewn. So that's called the batten. Again,
We know that
Right.
word.
You do? Okay.
Hardy.
Like, yay, something.
Is that?
Oh, because you have those,
Yeah.
like,
Board and batten.
board and batten. Gotcha.
You
Okay.
got us.
Yay, something that points. It's completely different, but it's the same word. So just another view of a screen shade, and you can see this one has less texture, so you get a better idea of what that looks like when you're looking out. So again, screen shade.
Are any of these for outdoor?
Screen shades can be outdoor. They have some outdoor capable fabrics.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't do a lot of outdoor ones because the install is more complicated. They get very expensive. Most people, once they say, I want an exterior shade, once you say, okay, that's gonna be about $5,000, they say, never mind.
But you do.
But we can do it.
But you
Yeah,
do.
we absolutely can do it.
It's like garden windows.
Are these the ones that cover?
Save
like,
yourself a lot of
people
trouble.
Cover the front of, like front doors, like at some people's houses, like it's.
Yeah.
like a curtain
Yeah,
door.
we've actually done a couple of those. They'll install them on their, like, entrance,
Right.
dropping down in front of their front door. We've done a few of those.
On the,
Yeah.
on the outside of it?
On the outside, it's kind of
Really?
weird, but I've had a couple of
I've
people
never
that order
seen
them that way.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
You get these really ornate front doors that have all the glass. You
Yeah.
can't attach anything to the inside of it.
Ah.
So,
Huh.
yeah. More rollers, and then we already talked about the Sonnet and the Solera.
Just to
Yep.
recap on some verbiage.
Yes, absolutely.
What's this part called again, on the roller?
This is a cassette. This is one of your top treatments, and this is a round cassette.
So this is a round cassette?
This is an open roll.
Okay.
Okay, so this is what it looks like if you didn't do a cassette, you didn't do any kind of top treatment.
Just remember, not 8-track, cassette. 'Cause-
Well, I'm trying to, because the reality is for top treatments, we've learned like 6 words already.
Oh, yes.
I want to make
There's
sure.
a ton. There's a
Yeah.
lot. I'm gonna make sure you have them all in one place written down
Okay.
with some pictures
Oh,
so that you'll have a good reference.
But I could always call it top treatment if I
Yes.
forget, right?
Correct,
Okay.
correct. And every product guide has a book, has a good flip book. With,
Okay.
if you're looking at with a client, it guides you through those options. So you always have kind of a fail-safe. I mean,
Okay,
you're
that's
gonna wanna have the familiarity, but you always have those things spelled out for you that will go through with your books with your clients. So, yeah, this is, you can see just the brackets are exposed.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's more industrial kind of looking.
definitely, that's not gonna, yeah.
You're not gonna do that very often, we almost never do. If you had a loft or something, maybe, even then, usually they do a different one.
Okay.
They do this one, so we'll just go and throw in our another one. This is a fascia, this is a metal box,
It's like a gutter.
yeah,
That's awful.
yeah. I know.
Yeah, why is that? That's
It's
crazy.
really.
Okay, next.
It's really
Don't need to learn that
contemporary.
one.
So if somebody's doing, they have those black windows, a lot of times they'll do the black fascia because it kind of blends, you know? But we sell very few of these. Most people do a square cassette. That's the most common. But yeah, it is kind of awful.
Does that go all the way up into the cassette thing?
Yeah. Well, it kind of fits into the housing and it covers the bottom here. So it attaches, I think, into the bracket.
But that retracts completely, so you don't see
Oh,
any
yes,
of that.
this, yes, this does.
Okay,
This would go completely into here and this would be all that you had left.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Does that come with Hardy fascia?
that would be an interesting look. Let's try that out. I've got stuff on some of the windows that I'm waiting for my installer to come change out. But if we pivot, and we'll talk about some more options here. So this is a banded shade.
Those are getting more popular now, right?
They are.
Yes. Yeah.
They're quite a bit. They're pretty popular.
Yeah.
And
So-
that's a cassette.
This is a cassette, but on the designer banded shades, it is standard. There's no option.
Okay.
So you don't have to pick it. It's like a cellular shade. You don't have to make a choice. This is what it is. And it's gonna come with the fabric over it. I think you might have an option to do just the solid plastic instead of having the fabric, but that's it. There's no choices for different top treatments.
Okay.
So now we're kind of at the point where we have our category of shades that you can see through. And that's when you start talking to clients about what they're interested in or what they need. One of the things I like to talk about is how do you use your shades? How are you going to use this product? So they've always had blinds and they're used to looking through them, but they want to do something different. They're ready to go to the next level type of product. Are they still going to want to look through? Because if they do a roller shade or a cell shade, there's no view through that. It's either up or it's down, unless you do top down, bottom up, and then maybe you have it in between. But you can't see through it. If you do something like a banded shade, you have the option of, and this is not that easy with that, but yeah, you can line these up, theoretically. I would never sell a house full of these to someone who's OCD. Just side note.
Gives me anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Would have put these in Shutt's house just to mess with them. But yeah, you have a view through when you line it up correctly. And it's, for those of you that are my age, it's like the old hand towels that would go on a roll and rotate around.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's one roll of fabric rotating on itself.
Okay.
This type of style comes in a Roman also, correct?
No.
Okay.
This is always going to be on a roller. It can go up, it can go down,
Good guess.
and you can stop it anywhere in
50-50.
between. Yeah, it was reasonable.
Took a shot at it.
I don't know with all the options. Your chances
Yeah.
were lower, I think. Than 50-50.
Right?
That's kind of cool.
It really is. It's a really cool product. It's really contemporary.
Yeah.
You can get this with a lot of different kinds of colors and whatever, so you have some options.
You almost have it perfect, so don't touch it now.
Right, now we're leaving it there forever.
Yeah, your height.
Let's see
Yeah,
if I can
my
get
height.
this thing to come down.
That's the.
That's the
If you
other,
have two OCD people in
that's
the
the other
house.
caveat. One can't be sure of the other.
I lost my other remote. Oh, here, I was going to show you all this. The light lock on a cell shade, because I was saying you're always going to have a side gap. The answer to that is side channels. They're ugly,
Yeah.
but if you put them in a bedroom or you put them in a media room, you get pretty close to blackout.
Hmm.
We don't use the word blackout if we can help it, but clients will use the word blackout. And I always try to correct them room darkening because we're never going to guarantee no light. But this is as close as you're going to get to it.
You say African American out?
This is a silhouette, so that's another type product that gives you view through.
Careful, you cut that video.
Yeah.
I have to splice that out.
Leave it.
iMovies.
That's
Can't find my override on this one. This is a geometric pattern. I'll have to find the right remote, but it's a banded shade with a pattern on it. It's really trippy. So this is more expensive. This is where you're starting to get into your more expensive products. So this is going to be more expensive than a standard roller, and then this is pretty much top tier silhouette and luminette. I'm sorry, silhouette and pirouette, and these are the next two we'll talk about. So this is 2 layers of fabric, 2 sheer layers, and then a fabric vein in between. Okay, so I can tilt it.
Fancy.
That's pretty cool.
Theoretically, it doesn't work so well with soft touch, but I can stop it in there at some point and direct a light, or I can have it all the way open, and then I can have it all the way closed,
So it
or all the way up.
gives you a louver function.
Exactly, exactly.
cool.
You have a louver function.
And you have your other options for opening devices, control devices
Yes,
with that?
yes. This can be continuous loop, it can be soft touch, it can be full power view motorization, and
awesome.
Ultra Glide, although I would never sell this with Ultra Glide, it's just too difficult to use. So,
The Ultra Glide's the one that we went like.
yes, exactly, and you can imagine trying to figure out which magical direction to open the louvers, yeah.
So Ultra Glide's out, right? That's
I mean,
kind of what we're.
That's kind of what I feel like.
Okay, cool.
This is a cassette, right? And it's always going to be this sort of slightly rounded cassette.
It's a top treatment. It's a top
Most of these are battery. They can be wired in. Most of them are rechargeable batteries.
How long do they last?
About a year, which is not bad. And that's based on 1 up, 1 down a day. So if you use it more, we have like your honeymoon period when somebody first gets a motorized shade, they play with it a ton. So it may not last the first year, but usually about a year.
You'd think, why wouldn't they do solar on these? Like a little solar panel on the back that would.
It's an option with some of our vendors,
it?
not with Hunter Douglas. But I mean, the stars have to align perfectly for a solar power source to work. And it shows from the outside of your window. So you don't necessarily like the way that looks, but also it has to be getting just the right amount of contact.
Well, the other problem is because we're gonna sell them windows, that UV's not gonna get there anyways,
There you go.
right?
So Silhouette is also available with the Duolite, and I think this one has it. You can see this fabric, the sheer, we have it with different textures, and then the vein can have different textures as well. So this is a good example of a Duolite.
Okay.
Okay.
And this is like the highest price point, right?
It's the next to highest price point. Silhouette, Luminette, and Pirouette are your very top Bentley type products.
All the ads.
All the Ets, exactly.
I knew we're
Very
gonna,
good.
Aside from shutters.
Ricky, do you mind over there on that wall? There's some light switches. Do you mind just shutting those down for a second?
I know we're gonna get there, and I don't wanna rush
Yeah,
this.
you're good.
But just out of curiosity, we're getting to the higher priced
Mhm.
products. What would one window of this
About
cost?
$1,000.
Gotcha.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So you can see the Duolite. I have still light coming through. You can still kind of see some radiant light coming through the sides.
Mm-hmm.
And on my Duet with the light lock, there's very little. Okay. Still maybe through here, but almost none through the side. What you're getting here is going to be coming through the back of the box. But from the front of my shade, almost no light. Even with Duolite, I'm going to have some light. So it's just important to have those conversations with clients. Silhouette is never a room darkening really option. They have a room darkening fabric, but you can see how much light bleeds through these.
The battens.
Right.
Yeah.
Give you a good amount of privacy.
Yeah.
If they're not needing crazy darkness,
Right.
it works. But if
Right.
someone's super light sensitive, don't sell them this for the bedroom. Okay. Okay. So that's that. We'll go ahead and put the lights back on and then I'll ask.
I like this.
Motorized?
Yes.
What, generally speaking, what's the warranty on?
5 years. 5-year warranty on your motor. It's pretty powerful. So this is the Pirouette. Okay. Same functionality essentially as the Silhouette. These are both proprietary Hunter Douglas products. But Hunter Douglas invented the Silhouette. It's been on the market for 30 or 40 years, and they don't hold the complete trademark on it. So you have other vendors that have very similar to this. No one has anything like this. So this is another, it looks like a Roman, right? Once it's down, you still have that sort of soft fold. It has a very elegant look to it. It'll go up completely like a roller.
So it'll go all the way behind that top treatment?
Yes,
Is that what you're saying?
correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
This is what I was thinking
Oh,
about
that's
earlier
cool.
when I asked if
Okay,
it comes in
gotcha,
Roman.
gotcha.
This is what I was
You've seen
thinking
something
about.
like this, yes.
Sure, Dwayne.
So you have like a 5-inch, 4 to 5-inch option on these veins, the fabric vein. And when it's open, you get a really good amount of view through. Okay. Whereas the Silhouette's always going to be kind of diffused. It's never going to be really crystal clear. This is pretty clear. You get a really good amount of view through, and you get good light control. When this is closed, you do not have the same amount of light seepage that you do with the Silhouette. So it's a better room darkening product, because it doesn't have the 2-layer of sheer. It's easier to clean, which is one of the first questions you will get anytime you show this to a woman. How do I clean that? Canned air and prayer, okay?
Canned air and prayer.
Yes. Hope the bugs don't crawl in it.
That's your catchphrase.
But I always just say canned air, but yeah, but this is, I mean, you can possibly put a squeezer through there, but yeah. If you have cats, if you have small children, this is not the product. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Oh, yeah. It's gorgeous. We've done this in every parade of homes we've done in the last few years. People love it. It is the top of the line shade.
This would be considered the Rolls Royce.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
what,
I like the car analogy, sorry.
what's the price point on that?
It's actually similar to the Silhouette. They're kind of
So
neck and
around
neck depending
1,000
on which
for-
fabric.
Okay, obviously,
So around 1,000 to maybe 1,200.
And this comes in a lot of different color options, I'm assuming.
Correct. They're all going to be soft neutrals and a few sort of pastels.
No crazy oranges or anything like
No, the only thing you're going to get real color options on is going to be your cell shade. That's going to have the most colors. Everything else tends to be on-trend neutrals and textures more than color.
And did you say there's like multiple different like space dimensions that they
Yeah.
can choose from?
It can be I think it's 4 to 5 inches, 4 to 5.
that?
On the pirouette,
4 or 5.
4 or 5, and then the Silhouette, it's like 2.5 to, it might be 4.5. I think it's 2.5, 3.5,
And they can be
4.5.
pretty long, it looks like.
Yes,
Uh,
so, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, on that subject again, just 2 or 3 options as far as,
Right, let
Not-
me pull out the book and
not
I'll
anything
confirm that
crazy
for you.
there.
I think on the Pirouette it's 2 and on the Silhouette it's 3.
gotcha.
Okay, so this is similar to the Duolite, and you really, I'm not even gonna spend a lot of time on it, we don't sell it. If they wanted a Duo, you might as well do a Duolite, but this
Duo.
has a roller behind it
A
as well.
Duo?
A Duo.
It's you.
A Duo. Yeah, so it's a roller behind it.
Speaking of language,
That's why I said that. So it's,
Dwayne's gonna sell all those.
so it's 2,
Yes,
but what's 2? What is double on that?
it's the roller behind it.
Hold on, Dwayne. Jeez.
So similar to the Duolite,
I got you. Okay.
and they did this before they did the Duolite. These have, the problem with Duolites is they don't do quite the same dimensions. You can go pretty big, I think up to 10 by 10.
And is that
On
the
a
downside why you
pirouette.
don't sell too many of those?
Yes,
Because of the dimensions?
they're way more expensive, and they're also, the dimensions you can only do, I don't think you can even do a 72-inch
They
wide
seem
window.
so much more attractive than other ways, but
Yeah.
that opens up too though, just like.
Right, this
Yeah.
opens up as well. This is just,
Yeah.
you have so many more options with this, so many
Gotcha.
more things you can do. And they, like I said, they go much bigger. So like a 10 by 10 on this. And I don't think you can get above 60 on this.
Now, when you're quoting a price, like 1,000 a window, you're quoting one of the biggest sizes on this.
No.
Oh, so it can go much more.
I'm saying like a 35 by 70.
Standard size.
Right,
So bigger the window, even, yeah.
yes, much
Yeah.
more expensive.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
yeah, they are pricey, they are an
But
investment.
that's like fully installed, like.
Yeah, exactly,
Okay.
that's professional measure and installation and our full coverage, our warranty and guarantee plus Hunter Douglas's.
Then if you go full remote, that adds to it.
That adds about $300. A motor's always gonna add a range of about $300 per window, per window. Plus your ancillary devices like the remotes. We have a gateway which allows you to communicate with smart home systems and things with your
Fine.
motorization.
Sure.
So,
You can use your phone as a remote?
yes. With the new Gen 3 technology, which they just came out with, you can, they're Bluetooth. So they used to have a connecting device to be able to use it with an app in your phone, but now they will communicate directly with your phone, which is nice. They don't even have to have a remote. No,
That's
I
awesome.
mean, I wouldn't recommend not having one because, you're gonna lose your phone if you're me. But, okay. So, and I do have these examples over here on large windows, so we'll just go ahead and,
So when you said the 5-year warranty on motorized, that was Hunter Douglas's warranty, or that's
Yes.
ours?
that's Hunter Douglas.
Yeah, what you said, there's our warranty as well.
Well, I mean, our coverage, like, we're gonna take care of you. If something goes wrong, we're gonna take care of you. Doesn't mean there's gonna be a trip charge, the way we currently do it, but so that they know if they ordered something online, and people do, that's their next option, other than big box store or local competitor, is we have a lot of online competition. So they'll go to, Smith and Noble or whatever online and order something based on their own measurements, and then they have to install it, and if it's wrong, it's wrong. You know, whereas if we order something and it's wrong, we're gonna make it right. If we order something and you don't like it, we're probably gonna reorder for you. I mean, we don't lead with that, but Hunter Douglas has what they call a right choice promise. And if I order these pirouettes, we actually did a full house of this. Lady ordered these pirouettes, and I've told you about how expensive they are. And she got them in, and then she didn't like, this fabric was doing a weird thing in her windows, which we've never had it do before. And it had like a morization, which is where you get some reflection off that sheer fabric. And we ended up going back and reordering her entire house in what they call clear view, which is when this fabric is black. And she could see through it better. So, I mean, that's something Hunter Douglas offers, but it's something we would have done even if Hunter Douglas didn't. We're gonna make it right for the client. And we've had other examples of that, where they ordered light filtering or room darkening and then regretted it, and we'll fix it for them. We're not gonna leave them making this kind of an investment and then have an unhappy client. So on over here. The last thing we haven't talked about is the woven shades. We kind of mentioned them, but I haven't mentioned them yet. So woven is another type of woven, okay? But it's natural materials. So these are bamboo, grass, that kind of thing, and they're woven, and it's a roman. So this is what that back looks like. You see how prominent that would be in a window if you had an area that you were concerned about how it looked in the back.
Yeah.
We had a client here in the Bernie area actually that did romans in her, and they were custom romans. They did them for her bedroom, and she did not realize about that. And the salesperson never discussed it with her because he thought that's what she asked for. And he didn't talk about it with her. And we ended up having to replace them because outside her bedroom was this beautiful courtyard. And she was really upset that she could see that from the outside. So that's an example of us taking care of the client. We're gonna make it right. So, this is a valance, and this is a woven roman. So it doesn't have the folds in it when it's down. It's kind of a flat waterfall type. And then you've got different options for your top treatment, but it raises like a roman. And this is one of the only products that has that standard cord lock available. Meaning I could have this long cord hanging for my kid to kill himself on. Okay.
It's only 9 a year, Carrie.
Yeah, I mean, if you're into gambling,
Yeah.
this is a skyline panel. So these are the vertical options that coordinate with a roller shade and a screen shade. I can get them in all the same material, and then it fits like this to my window.
Oh, that's for a window, not for a door?
Well, like for a large slider, and sometimes they'll have the ancillary
So this
windows
is
to the sides.
This is the modern touch on the old vertical
Yes.
view. Yeah.
Yeah,
A little bit of a modern touch, yeah.
right.
Yeah.
It's not,
Is it popular?
no,
Okay.
it's expensive. It has a big stack. So you can see that was in a large space. See how much space I'm still taking up with this material now that it's open.
Mhm.
So you can imagine if you had 120-inch wide opening, you've lost this much of your opening. Now, if I have enough wall space, I can go outside that, but then I've lost that space for hanging hanging art or putting furniture. So it's not a great option for a lot of people. We do sell them, but you always have to discuss that, how much stack it takes.
It's like a third of the opening.
Right. And it doesn't have a tilt function.
Oh, it doesn't have, you can't tilt it at
Right,
all.
you can't tilt it. It just slides. So they're sliding panels is what they are. But it does coordinate with these materials.
I mean, if it tilted, it would sit this far off the wall.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have the room to.
Yeah. Most of the time, we just tell people, just order your roller shade. If we have to break it into two, we break it into two, and most of the time, that's what people do.
Okay.
A lot of the houses we serve have those huge sliders. It's what every builder is doing now. So it
When
is
you
a
say
common
slider,
issue.
You're talking about doors.
Yes, the big slider doors, or accordion or whatever, but they'll have the big pulls, and half the back of their house is glass.
Mhm.
And they need to cover it at some point, even if they think they won't, eventually they'll come back to us and cover it. This one, the linens need to be reset so it's doing its little.
What did you say needed to be reset?
The limits, So when you sell a roller, they establish the limits, and they do that a lot of times. They'll play with it on install as well, so that it hits where you want it to when it's down. So the limits on this are just off, and it needs to be redone so that when I have it all the way down on my remote, it's not buckling on my windowsill.
Well, you're saying that sometimes during install, that's not done?
Usually it's, no, I mean, it's always done during install. It should be
Okay.
done when it comes to us. The limit
Oh,
should
I
be
see.
set when it's ordered, but sometimes the installer will play with it a little bit.
Get it just
To
right.
get it, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Roller shades are one of the products that have, on your roll, you're gonna have like at least an extra inch of fabric. So the length when you're ordering a roller shade, just a roller shade, is not that important. I mean, it's just the accuracy on these is less of a concern than it is on most of the other shades. Something like a pirouette that cannot open, those veins can't open until it is fully extended, that length is extremely important. Silhouette, extremely important, same thing. Banded shade, it has to be the right height, because how it functions is affected by its height.
So don't order that online.
Correct,
Professional measure,
always,
work with us.
yes.
How does a professional measure work?
What we are contemplating, what I'm suggesting right now, is that we would have our installer might come behind you guys. So when you're in the house, you're gonna measure to quote, you have to have a general. But a lot of times what my guys do now, especially if they're doing shutters, they do a rough opening. So they'll do 34.5 by 58, whatever. They're not measuring to the 1/8 of an inch. When we order, we measure to the 1/8 of an inch. So our installer, you would sell, our installer would come in and do a final measure.
Exactly.
Right, so we keep that continuity for you guys, wouldn't be any different. And it'll give us a little bit of a safety measure, because Mike has been in the industry for 20-something years. If he comes in and goes, I don't think this is gonna work quite the way you had in mind, he'll be able to discuss that with you, and we catch that before it gets ordered, because you're gonna be learning, and there's a lot. So I think that's gonna give us a little extra insurance there for everyone.
That's exactly what I was hoping you'd say.
Yes.
That's what I was
Okay,
like.
great.
Well, I didn't wanna be, that's what I was hoping
Yeah.
it'd be the same, like we.
Right, we're not gonna be
Yeah.
There's a safety,
responsible.
there's a safety net.
Measure,
Exactly, it's a
yeah,
safety
and
net.
there's a technical
Precisely.
measure.
Yeah, that's-
Okay, well, we're doing pretty good on time, all
Good
right.
stuff.
So we've talked about all the basic types of shades. I have books and we'll kind of go through those, but I wanted to talk about opacity a little bit. Do y'all wanna take a break?
Yes.
All right, take a break.
Yeah, go ahead.